Real-time 3D previews show you exactly what you're going to get prior to committing a feature. This lets you detect problems early and make sure that you're going to get exactly what you want. It also gives you a better grasp of what some of the options are actually going to result in. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like. We have a few profiles here, and the first thing we'll do is just turn one into an extrude boss. You can see in all of the feature dialogues, at least in the part workspace, that everything that you do is going to show a real-time solid. In our case, let's make a depth of 1, and we'll commit it. Now we'll do the same thing except with an extrude cut. It can sometimes be difficult to tell if the extrude cut is going in the right direction, but with real-time 3D previews on, you can see the results real-time. Let's go ahead and finally make a shell. And our part is complete. Some features have options that might require a little trial and error, or perhaps aren't so intuitive sometimes. A loft is a really good example of this, and in our case what we want to do is loft these 3 profiles. Now if you wanted to play with different options prior to having real-time 3D previews, you'd have to commit the loft, and then if you didn't like it, you'd have to edit it and do it over and over and over. Real-time 3D previews let you see exactly what you're going to get before you have to commit, which allows you the freedom to kind of play around and see what's happening. We'll also notice in this case that we got a failed feature. Now normally we would detect this only after we had committed the loft, which means that we would have to go back and modify something to try to figure out what caused the failed feature and what values might result in a failed feature. With real-time 3D previews, you have the flexibility to do all this in real time without ever leaving the loft dialog box. We can also turn on a guide curve. And we can play with the options here to see exactly the different results that we're going to get. Now let's talk a little bit about the various ways that you can manage real-time 3D previews and why you might want to do that. In our case, let's pretend that this shell took a minute to calculate. If we had real-time 3D previews turned on, anytime we made any change would result in the feature being reevaluated, and that time could quickly add up. What we might want to do is just toggle 3D previews off. In this case, we would get the typical preview that might be associated with whatever feature that we're doing, and we can make changes as needed and then toggle it back on. If we know that this feature never should have real-time 3D previews turned on, perhaps because it's really complicated and takes a long time to evaluate, we'll just leave it off. We'll press OK, and then the next time we go into this feature, we'll notice that it's still turned off. So real-time 3D preview toggles are available on a feature-by-feature basis to give you very granular control. This is typically for performance reasons. There are 2 other ways to manage real-time 3D previews on a part and a global level. If you go into the System Options, Real-time 3D Previews, you'll notice that we have a Show Previews checkbox. If you wanted to disable or enable 3D previews globally, this is how you would do it. This would affect all of your part workspaces. However, maybe there's a part that you don't want to use real-time 3D previews. Maybe it's full of features that take a long time to evaluate. In this case, you can go to the File Properties, 3D Previews, and you can choose to either inherit the value from the system options, which we just saw, or you can turn them on or turn them off. So in this case, you have really good control over where 3D previews show up and in what contexts.